What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Dom and Pop DC Sports Talk Plus podcast. This week, we got to check in on NFL free agency. We got plenty of Commanders quarterback news to talk about. Of course, we'll get to our Cots of the week, and maybe we'll sprinkle in just a little bit of March Madness. We'll have to see. Check it out. Pop, how you doing, man?
Doing all right. My very preemptive Cots is to home assembly. Just putting together a table today.
Amen.
Hours of work.
I'll drink
new
to that.
Kitchen table. But no, it's good. Just basketball junkie. I got my FanDuel rolling, trying to predict these games. We're in the round of 32 now this weekend. I know by the time the pod comes out, Terps will have played Alabama and had a glorious victory. Let's hope. Putting those positive vibes up and a great.
I will be atop the bracket challenge in all of my groups. Yep, I took the Terps to win it all. I said, you know what?
I like it.
I got no dog in this race. Everybody in my bracket, no money. Last time I checked, Berkeley College of Music is not in the bracket. I'm rolling with my Terps. Number one, all across the board. I took them home. I said, Cots to Alabama. Who cares about Purdue? Maryland's winning it all. And nobody cares about Purdue. Purdue's gone. They're home already. So that's nuts.
Yeah. Purdue goes down. Virginia goes down.
Yep. Arizona
goes down. That killed me. I had them going to my finals. So
yeah, the Arizona upset hurt a lot of people. It was a good team, and I think we did have one bracket in our group that had Purdue winning it all. So there goes that bracket.
I watched them play a lot, being in the Big Ten, and I didn't think they had that kind of team, to be honest.
Yeah.
So I didn't have them going too far, but yep, Duke falls to Tennessee today, so you got to love that. But yeah, we won't go through the details because we know by the time the pod comes out, it'll be a bit stale. We'll be on to the round of 16, but yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is. It is a lot of fun. You can't beat it. You just have to just tune in and just embrace the chaos. Every year you think you have a shot. I remember at the end of the first day, I'm looking at my bracket. I'm like 94%. I'm like, I'm winning it all. And then it just, it falls apart. But yeah, Maryland game tonight's going to be great. Let's move on.
Great win against West Virginia to start it all off. That was just, as far as I'm concerned, we've talked about it before. But a great job Kevin Willard's done in his first year. You love his fiery speeches in the locker room and how he's motivating the team. And at this point, it's all gravy. I mean, to make the tournament, to be an 8th seed in his first year, and to win that first tournament game, now you got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you put it perfectly. You never had expectations. A lot of people thought this team was missing the tournament going into the year, and boys get in there, get in at an 8th seed, so solidly middle of the pack, and then you get a really tough draw in West Virginia. I know it's an 8 and 9 seed, but West Virginia is a tough ball team.
Tough game.
Very physical, very, their coach has been there for forever. I'm blanking on his name, but he always has really physical, hard-nosed basketball teams. And that's been something that Maryland struggles to match up with, but they did their thing. It's awesome.
Absolutely.
So they're going to kick Alabama's ass tonight. Go Terps. Let's move on. Let's get on to the gridiron. What do you say? We got a little more concrete stuff to talk about there. We've got the biggest news of the week. We're just going to lead off with it. Commanders related, at least on the field, the biggest news for sure. Jacoby Brisset, QBX, QB2, QB1B, maybe QB1 in some households. He's coming on, and that means, of course, fortunately, depending on who you are, unfortunately, Taylor Heinicke, his time in Washington is gone. He was Pop is ready to show him the door. The good news for him, he's going to go get his bag down in Atlanta. He got a 2-year deal down there, amounting to about $6.5 million, something like that, $6 million. So good for him. He's probably have an opportunity to compete for the starting job with Desmond Ridder down there. That's a pretty unknown situation, and hopefully he balls out. Wish him nothing but the best. And Jacoby Brisset coming in. I mean, if only your favorite podcast had predicted this. Oh wait, we did. I've been calling for this since the season was going on last year. I said that's the
Geniuses.
guy.
Geniuses.
That's the guy we bring in, and then Pop brings it back when we're talking about quarterback targets. He was our number one. He was clearly their number one. He's our quarterback now. Pop, how do you
He's
feel
number
about
one. He was number one given the circumstances. We
given the
qualified it,
circumstances, of
right?
course?
We're not
Yeah.
saying that he's at the
Thank
top
you.
tier
Yeah.
of the guys available, but we knew that of that second tier of guys that has some potential to play out, he was the guy that we liked the most, being a realistic target. And yeah, I'm surprised you're not more emotional about the Taylor news, Dominic.
I'm
Are
disappointed. I
you
was
okay?
sad. I was sad the day of for sure. That's my guy. I'm a Heineke guy. I've been a Heineke guy through and through. I know, like we've in our lowest moments on the podcast, we've said realistically, you're just not going to win a Super Bowl with Taylor Heinicke. So what are you doing? Like you do have to move on and try and upgrade. And I think Jacoby Brissett, by every measure, is an upgrade. But you know, Taylor Heinicke kept my favorite football team interesting over the last 2 years. And so I got nothing but respect for the guy. I love him. And, I hope he does really well going
I
forward.
mean, it's interesting with fans because it is a polarizing conversation, but I think I still find it hard for the people that watch Taylor play, especially during the 3-game losing streak, and
Yeah.
saw how limited we were as an offense, could still think that he's possibly could be the answer for this team. So I personally feel like it was time to move on.
Yeah.
And, I think, I know people will say it's not much of a difference, but I think Jacoby Brissett's a significant upgrade. And,
Yeah. I agree
yeah.
100%. And
And
I
I
think
mean,
this further cements the commitment to Howell. I think if you keep Heineke around, just knowing Heineke's got a winning record, Heineke's been the guy for us before. He can always step in and take over and at least keep us treading water. You keep him around, you're going to have fans chanting for him. If Howell comes out the gate slow and is weak after 3 or 4 games, I think this cements that plan A is definitely Sam Howell, and then we're going to have this guy, Jacoby Brissett, who can be a serviceable starter if you need him, but also is happy to come off the bench
I
and
I
back the boy
disagree
up.
with you. This is this
Interesting.
is this is my hot take. I disagree with you. I think
Pop
this
is
is
hot on Brissett, so
well.
tell the people.
It's not that I want Hal to win the job. That is the
Yeah,
best case scenario for the Commanders, to find a really good young quarterback. I like Hal. I think there's a possibility that it could happen. I also think there's a very real possibility it could not happen. I mean, first round quarterbacks are 50-50. I don't think Hal's a true fifth rounder. I mean, he was the first pick in the fifth round. I think he was, dropped too far in that draft. He probably should have been the second or third.
yeah.
Especially when you look at how some of the quarterbacks performed that went before him. I mean, I think he deserved to get picked a lot
You got
higher.
about that out of all the quarterbacks that went before him. And to be fair, you got about that from him
Pickett
too.
had a
11
decent,
completion.
yeah,
Pickett's good, not
right,
including Pickett, the non-first round guys.
right.
Everybody who went before him, you haven't gotten anything
But
out of.
if you're being realistic, we really don't know, right?
Yeah.
We don't know. So I think this is going to be more of a competition, and I think the possibilities of Brissett winning the job. And then I kind of disagree with you about the Heat. Like, I think the Heat's going to be there because Brissett's got a pretty decent resume, and if Hal's not performing, that Heat's going to be pretty quick, and there's going to be people calling for Brissett almost as quickly as they would for Heinicke. That said, I do
Interesting.
hope Hal wins the job, but I got a scenario for you. Let's say Hal wasn't in the picture, and Jacoby Brissett was brought in as your starter. Yeah, with that contract, 1 year, $10 million. You had a choice. Would you rather be locked in with Daniel Jones for 4 years at 160 million, or would you rather have the Commander situation with Jacoby Brissett as your starter on a
It's
1 year
tough.
deal?
That's tough. Jacoby on a 1 year deal is tough. I mean, I think
But
you got to
who's
go with
really?
it.
I guess it's to get you thinking, like, who's really the better quarterback between those two?
So I will say the fact that this is even a conversation is really good for Washington because it shows how
Exactly.
good Daniel Jones is. I still would go with Daniel Jones. I think he definitely has not performed up to his potential so far.
And
I
that
think
contract?
he can run the ball. The contract is tough, man. That's a lot of money to pay
I
for
mean, I guess they
Jones.
got some escape clauses in there where they can get
They
out.
got there's a
Yeah.
lot of escapability, and it's hard to answer that question because I'm not an agent. I don't know all the technicalities of the contracts, but
But from
I
what
would
we hear,
say from what we hear, I guess Brissett, because if it blows up, you just get Caleb Williams next year, right? You're not tied to anything. But and that's we've even heard some talk about that in relation to us bringing him in
but
now.
Brissett got a nice long run as a starter, right? 11 games. It was 4-7, but I don't think that was his fault. I mean,
Cleveland's really
Cleveland was
bad.
ranked 6th in offensive efficiency. He was ranked 8th in the league in QBR, right? I
He did
mean,
have Nick Chubb. So Chubb is going to boost your offensive
we've
efficiency
got some pretty good
significantly.
running backs too, right?
We
So I
do.
think I
We
think
do.
I am high on Brissett. I think that he's a guy that could have a Geno Smith-esque kind of breakout if he's given the opportunity. He's obviously, we're excited about the coaching on the offensive side of the ball. So I'm still rooting for Hal. I still think Hal is plan A, but I think you're talking about plan A minus B plus with
Yeah.
Brissett. I think
I
this is
think
going
you're
to be a
looking
lot
at
closer call than people think.
I mean you're might get made fun of this. I might get made fun of for this later on in the year. I probably will. But I think you're looking at Brissett going, if he's got to be the starter, you could still maybe win 9-10 games with him, with this team, with this offense. If he's going to just be the short yardage wizard like he's been, and we're really going to be running that
He's a
hard nosed
significant
run,
upgrade over what we had last year.
huge. I mean, you're looking at
8-8-1.
we had 20 we have 34, and I know PFF is not the end all be all and they are really rough sometimes, but we had number 34 and we went to number 21. That's a huge jump, and I watched Brissett play several times over last year, full games. I had Game Pass, so I was just watching anything I could, and he's a good I mean, I even remember back in New England when Garoppolo got hurt while Brady was suspended when he came in. He's not a bad quarterback. I think he should be starting somewhere every year
I
when
mean,
you
it's
look at the
32
quality of
jobs. I
quarterback
agree. Yeah.
across the league. So it was exactly what I wanted to happen. I've been calling for it all year. I'm really happy
They
with
were
it.
overhyping it, but that's what we do.
Yeah, it's
It's
we
the
got to
off
get
season.
excited about something. So tying into that, why don't we check out our free agency grades? You just look around some of the other big names, other big changes we made. So we went and we got Nick Gates from the Giants. So we did go get ourselves a center, or at least a contender for center, because our boy Tyler Larson will also be coming back. He can also potentially play center. We got a lot of that Ron Rivera position flex is hanging around on that offensive line. Now we've got Gates can do multiple things on the inside. Tyler Larson, can do multiple things on the inside. Andrew Wiley can kind of do guard or tackle, depending anywhere on the right side of the line. So we'll see how that shakes out. We know it's kind of the same thing with Cosme.
Right.
So, again, if only your favorite podcast predicted that Andrew Wiley was coming to the Commanders, you guys could have been ready for it. I mean, I think we uploaded it that morning, and I was like, guys, Andrew Wiley's exactly who I want to go get. That's a perfect target. And I think he was signed by the time the podcast got uploaded. So you guys check that out if you haven't
So
already.
there's still Chase Ruyer still hanging out there too. I don't know
Yeah,
if he's going to end up being a cap casualty cut or what's going on with him and what they're
Yeah, health
thinking
has
from him.
been such an issue for him. I can't imagine you commit to him and Larson. And I know Larson is like only guaranteed 150
Yeah, you
grand or
wouldn't
something
think
like
so.
that.
You wouldn't think so.
So I don't think we're not really committed to him either way. But Fa Obata also comes back. Danny Johnson comes back on the defensive side of the ball. Danny Johnson's a guy I was a big fan of. If we're talking about those, further down the roster guys, I really like him. Deron Payne obviously is the big blockbuster, and Jacoby Brisset.
Did you
And
mention Cody Barton at linebacker?
oh yeah, Cody Barton's a big one. So Cole Holcomb gone, unfortunately. I think on the defensive side of the ball, that's probably going to be the biggest change for us because Payne's staying, so that's a change. But
Seems
yeah,
like
Pop.
two very similar guys, right, between Barton and
Yeah,
Holcomb. Some very good moments and flashes, some struggles, building up to that. So that almost seems like a like for like exchange there, which
yeah.
isn't great, but.
I'm a Holcomb guy personally.
Yeah,
I don't know. I can't act like I've watched a ton of Seahawks defense. I bet a lot on Geno Smith last year, and I made a
word
lot of
is he
money off of
struggled very early in
it.
the season, but he came on strong and
Which
late in the year.
does that
Was kind
sound
of the word.
familiar to you? Over the last 2 years with Mr. Holcomb, it was kind of the same situation. So, and I know they wanted to keep Holcomb around, they just couldn't pay him.
Yeah,
So, if it's going to come down to Holcomb staying and then you got to let Payne go, or you get Payne on that deal and you can go get Barton, it's a no brainer, right?
yeah.
So, all things considered, I'm feeling pretty good. Pop, I've rattled off a bunch of names, bunch of scenarios. How are you feeling?
It's hard to say. I got mixed thoughts about it. I mean, I have a good vibe about Wiley and Gates. I mean, Gates just seems like a hard nose, like you said, position flex kind of guy. Seemed very popular amongst the Giants and the Giants fans. So,
Big locker room guy,
um,
apparently.
Wiley, you've heard some mixed reviews, but when you really look at it in terms of him just being a starter there and how he graded out in terms of pass blocking and other things, I think he's certainly a great find for us. So, I'd say solid. Nothing like to get too excited
Yeah.
about, but
But we're going to get excited about it anyways, right? Because that's what we got. Like,
I
you make the
mean,
best out of what you have.
definitely
So,
like the fact that you got two starting caliber offensive linemen. I like the guys that we've brought back. I think if Tyler Lawson could stay healthy, he's he was a great addition to the team,
yep.
for sure. And so I mean, I generally I feel good about it.
Yeah. I agree. I think I'd give it, if I had to give it a grade, I'd probably give it like a B, but it's the B you feel good about. It's like an 86.5 or something
Right.
like that. It's like, okay, like we solidly did the thing. Like, I never felt bad coming home and telling you, like, hey, Pop, I got an 86 on my calculus test. Well, in calculus, as a matter of fact, that was cause for celebration.
How would I have
But
responded? How would I have responded to that?
I mean, you would tell me what happened to the other 14%,
Exactly.
but in calculus, 86 was a win for the boy. I hit an absolute wall when I got into calculus, but it's neither here nor there. I
We
definitely
don't
think
we don't settle for B's in the Dama Pop household, but that's all
no,
right.
definitely not. But yeah, I think overall, I think we could probably agree solid B for the boys in free agency,
Yeah, I
right?
mean, I think it they set themselves up where I think the general philosophy is if you can fill some of those needs in free agency, it gives you more flexibility in the draft
Yeah,
to draft more for
best player
best player
available.
available than need. But certainly, I don't think it changes a whole lot. I still think they need another offensive lineman. Linebacker is a position in need because there's still depth issues there. And
Yeah.
corner, we've talked about. I mean, they really haven't upgraded cornerback at all through the early free agency. So, that's where we are.
Yeah,
Solid.
I agree. I think solid is the best way to look at it. Yeah, let's move on. Let's get into our kick hots of the week. What do you say? Do you have any closing Commanders thoughts, or you think it's time to kick hots it up?
I think I've been waiting to get caught. So.
Yeah, I started it last week with about a 5 minute rant on this guy, but we're gonna go back to it because why not? Aaron Rodgers says he intends to play with the Jets. Now I got to give my deepest apologies to my Jets insider. We're about to rip on your guy here a little bit. But I can't stand Aaron Rodgers, man. I'm so done with all of this.
What a crazy situation. I mean, Ket Kotz, like, have you ever heard in the history of sport a player say before a deal is done, and as of the recording of this podcast, it still sounds like they're far apart, and he just gave the Jets all the leverage in this
Yeah,
situation too. Like a player to announce that it's my intention to play for this other team, like it's never happened before. It's just a nutty situation. I mean, I think to some degree, Green Bay is is playing a part of that by saying pretty much they don't want him back, but it's just crazy.
If I'm Green Bay, every day I spend on this is a day I'm losing money. I'm losing time because time is money and emotional energy that you spend on this kind of stuff is money. I'm just saying, you know what? Take them.
Have
Like,
you
I
heard like
understand
have
you
you
want
heard
to
what
try
the
and get some
compensation
back.
might be?
I heard something about like Green Bay wants a first rounder and something else, or maybe they want multiple. They want a first rounder plus players, or they want a first rounder plus other picks. And the
First
Jets
and
are
a
just
third or something.
the
Yeah.
Jets are just like, no, if we're gonna give you a first rounder, we're not giving you anything else. And I think like it's hard. You got the back-to-back MVP quarterback. How do you not give him a first rounder? Like 2 MVPs in 3 years. That's definitely worth a first rounder. But he's also 40, and he's also Aaron Rodgers. He's a total head case. Like, how can you, as the Jets, how can you say, I got to guarantee this guy $250 million, and he's going to be, he could in 3 weeks decide he hates New York, and then he's gone. Like,
Yeah,
this
I
is
mean, as
not.
great as he's been, and especially not maybe not so much last season, but the season before, the Packers had a great run, but doesn't carry into the playoffs. Doesn't carry into deep playoff runs. I mean,
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes takes the Chiefs on a deep playoff run almost every year, and he's like the main catalyst and reason that happens. And there's the other guy that's arguably at the top of that quarterback hill and doesn't really do that on a regular basis. So
Yeah, I
I
mean,
I I mean, you said it last week. I wouldn't want any part of it personally, but the behavior and the situation itself is just nuts for him to go on the radio and say it's my intention to play for the Jets. Wild.
and I just think, what the Jets are doing, we saw this, like, I'm sure it's been around before, but since I've been really paying attention to football at the level that I've been, we saw this kind of play out with the Rams, and then we saw it play with the Bucks, where you've got a lot of good young players, and then you go spend up big to go get the star quarterback, plug them in, capitalize on your championship window. But the Bucks are going to be the worst team in football next year. I mean, the Bucks just look like they're totally in
Right.
free fall, and the Rams are right there behind them, just chasing them to the bottom, the two of them.
Right.
And like you figure Stafford can get healthy, Cup can get healthy, maybe the Rams can be fighting for a wild card next year. But the Bucks just look terrible. And the Jets, same thing. Such a good young core that football team is built around. They had such a great draft. They have time. They have obviously Zach Wilson was a bust. It sucks to miss on that,
Well,
but
they've been missing, right? And there's a lot
yeah,
of similarities, I think, with what you see with the Jets and what you see with the Commanders. And I mean, they've been taking swings in the draft and missing multiple times. And so I think there's just, you miss, and you got a chance to land a Hall of Famer, you go for it. And I think the opposite's happening with the Commanders, right? They've just, struck out in the draft and a couple times in free agency, and they thought Wentz was the guy. So now they're going to go with the young guy. But, at some point, I guess keep swinging at that quarterback position, and, they're
yeah.
taking another big swing at it.
So while we're here in the Kickots of the Week segment, I'm sorry, we got to go completely left. We got some breaking news. 8 seed Arkansas men don't care about your bracket. Beat the Kansas City Jayhawks, or beat the Jayhawks. Beat Kansas 72 to
Wow.
71. So
Wow.
my entire bracket rides on Maryland tonight because I had the Terps and the Jayhawks in the finals. So that's all over. But yeah, just wanted to throw that in there. It's just another
Wow.
insane upset. One seed takes a dive. Complete bracket bomber there. They were the
Wow.
third most common team picked to win it all. But sorry to cut you off there,
Breaking
Pop.
news. Oh, no, it's all good. I think we're ready to move off that one anyway.
Yeah, so anyways, kick to the whole situation. And one last small thing. Take that wish list, put it where the sun don't shine. That wish list drives me crazy. I just think that is so. You get to pick the team that you're going to go play for. You've made $300 million playing football, and now you're going to tell somebody else how they have to spend their. That's ridiculous. I think that's such crap.
I'll say this,
I can't stand the wish list thing.
you said it like, he can still ball. and I believe he can still ball. And the only thing I
Yep.
would say is that if he has a chip on his shoulder and he really,
It's a
you know,
scary football team.
he's
That's going to be a
focused,
scary football team.
it could work out. It could work out.
Yeah.
The thing that I don't like about it, and you saw it with the Rams, like it's great. Look, would I buy a Super Bowl run for the Commanders if I knew that Rodgers was going to take us to the Super Bowl and then retire? Yeah, I would. But giving up picks and having to cut guys because of salary cap issues, and then you kind of suck the year after. I don't know. I'd rather build a sustained situation with a young quarterback that you can count on for years to come. Versus
Exactly. And that's like personally, I think what we're about to start talking about here, some of the other quarterback movement, a Jimmy Garoppolo, I would have rather had if I'm New York. I would rather had Baker Mayfield. Just these younger guys that have a chance to prove something still. Even Jacoby Brisset, bring him in and let him compete with Mike White. Like there are other guys around the league. Make a move in the draft. I just don't understand it. I don't get it. I don't think it's in your best long-term interest. But who do I know? We'll see. You know what? We're lucky enough. We don't have any Rams fans in the family. We do have a Jets fan, so we'll get to watch him go through this, and we'll get to see. Hey, mate, would it be worth it for the Commanders to do something like this, or do we not want any part in it? We're gonna watch it all play out. So,
for sure.
anyways, let's get around the NFL. I mentioned it before. Jimmy Garoppolo headed to Vegas, Las Vegas Raiders. Um, that's exciting. He's going to get the opportunity. I'm sure he'll be the starter out there.
Without a doubt.
And it's a good football team. That's a really good football team. Hopefully, he can plug and play, take over, and they got good star power on that team. They've got Max Crosby on the defensive line, Josh Jacobs, Devonta Adams, of course, going to be the best receiver he's ever played with. So then you got Baker Mayfield headed down to Tampa.
I think the only question about Jimmy G is, can he stay healthy? If
Yeah,
he's healthy, I don't think there's much of a difference from the level of player between him and Derek Carr, and
yeah.
I think he's obviously got a better connection with the coach, and I
Well,
think
there's a
he'll do
big difference this year out there is the boy Scott Turner. So I hope Jimmy G likes empty
right.
back sets because Scott Turner calling the shots out there. His pass game coordinator, I believe, out there. So we'll see how that goes. We had a feeling that Scott Turner and Jimmy G might be hanging out together in DC, so they just kind of moved it to Vegas. I guess they're more into
There you
gambling
go.
than politics. But Baker Mayfield, I don't know why you said Dom's boy. I don't know what tie
Remember
do I have
last
to Baker
week? Last
Mayfield.
week you said you don't want anything to do with Baker Mayfield with the Commanders.
Not in DC, no. So he's headed down
There
to
you go.
Tampa. There you go, I guess. Fun Baker Mayfield fact. He when my team got last place in fantasy football 2 years ago, he was my quarterback in the last place bowl and he lost. So I guess that's why I don't like Baker
Is he
Mayfield.
moving to Tampa Stadium for those freaking commercials that we saw every
Oh my
5 minutes?
god. You know what? Thank God he did those commercials and he got some money because clearly football has not been working out for Baker the way he planned on it. Sorry, buddy. But he's headed down to Tampa. Speaking of having good receivers, he'll have the biggest shoes in the world to fill with Brady, but he'll have Godwin and Evans down there. So we'll see what he can do. Orlando Brown, we said there was no chance he was coming to DC. We can't afford him. He's out in Cincinnati, so he goes from protecting the best quarterback in football to the second best quarterback in football, and the margins are ever so slim nowadays, anyways. So that's going to be great. I'm sure Joe Burrow is dancing around his apartment.
Yeah,
And then Ezekiel Elliott cut by the Dallas Cowboys. His last play as the Dallas Cowboy was just getting absolutely pile drived by Fred Warner. So he's out. It should be
great
interesting to
coaching.
see where he lands. Elite coaching by the boy Mike McCarthy out
Oh man,
there. He's our favorite coach in the NFL.
that's it.
So yeah,
I think you saw that coming with Zeke. I mean, he's
yeah,
definitely lost a bit of a step, and you're right. It will
and
be interesting to see where he ends up.
what I think is really interesting down there is that Pollard was obviously the better running back. He's been the better running back there for
And
the
they
last two,
franchise
three
tagged
years,
him.
and they only tagged him. So you
Yeah,
wonder, the guys like Bijan Robinson, and they say it's a really strong running back class this year. You wonder maybe Dallas is looking towards that in the draft.
Possibly.
I hope not. I hope Pollard leaves and they don't have a run game because pretty much my whole life they've been such a good running football team. It drives me crazy. But I don't think that'll happen. I think they'll go out and get another star running back. But yeah, so that's the quick rapid fire takes around the NFL on the news. You got anything more you want to react to out of that, Pop? Or are you feeling pretty good on that?
Nah,
That
I think
segment.
it was a great rapid fire. Get us around there a bit. Talk on the news. So good stuff.
Yeah, we'll see. I guess there's still some big free agents out there. We'll have to see. I know Odell is looking to make his return this year. We'll see where he ends up.
Yeah, the Eagles were playing with me with Slay. I already had him dressed in
Yeah.
burgundy and gold.
Yeah, no, he ended up back. Yeah, I was waiting for him to make that Deshaun Jackson the move, and then he could go back to the Eagles after his best years are behind him.
Playing
That's
with my
fine.
heart.
Oh man, that would have been that would have been sweet. That would have been sweet. But some things are too good to be true. Darius Slay obviously staying with the Eagles. Marcus Mariota's headed up there to go be Hurts' backup. I can't really think of anything else, so I think we should probably just wrap this thing up. I think we've
Let's do it.
Covered all the good stuff, guys. Thank you so much for listening. As always, you may hear from us sooner than you think,
I was
depending
going
on
to say we're on high
what's going
alert for
on
that.
this week. Yeah.
We're on high alert for the ownership emergency pod.
Might be an emergency naked pod sponsored by Manscaped. We'll see. But until then, let's wrap this thing up. We can only hope. Hope for the Manscaped sponsorship part, not the naked part. Nobody wants to see that. Anyways, let's wrap this thing up. I've been Dom.
This is Pop.
Thanks for another great week, guys.